you're missing out on the most underrated English teaching method out there. It's super fun, it massively improves speaking skills, and it's really easy to set up. Most teachers have heard of it, but not enough are using it. I'm Will from Enchanted ESL, and in this video I'm talking about roleplay. It's a method I use all the time, and by the end of this, I hope to convince you to do the same. But first of all, what exactly is roleplay in the English classroom? Roleplay is the spontaneous enactment of an imagined scenario where students take on a different role and communicate with each other. Okay, let's break that down. First, spontaneous. It is unscripted and requires very little preparation. Students are expected to improvise dialogue rather than reading from a sheet. Second, enactment. That means getting up and about to dramatise the scenario with tone, movement and different gestures. But the focus is still on the speaking. Third, imagined scenario. Students put themselves in a particular situation, often with a problem to solve or an agreement to be reached. Fourth, students take on different roles. For example, one is a shopkeeper and one is the customer. Roleplay is not theatre. Students do not have to be good at acting and they don't have to memorise lines. It's all about provoking varied and challenging dialogue on the fly. Here's an example. You have 2 or 3 students. One is in the restaurant eating their dinner and finds a fly in their soup. Another student is the waiter or waitress and has to resolve that problem. And if you have a third student, they're also dining in the restaurant and they find a spider in their salad. Alright, now we're all talking about the same thing. Shortly, I'll get to all the reasons why roleplay is so amazing. But first, a couple of situations where you would want to avoid it. With absolute beginners, you can't really do roleplay. It requires a basic level of speaking skill. And if you need to focus on particular grammar structures or very specific vocabulary, it's not the best activity. By its very nature, roleplay is freeform, so you can't control exactly what language is said. But for pretty much every other situation, you can use roleplay. And here's why you should. Reason 1, speaking fluency dramatically increases. In a roleplay, students have to come up with extended stretches of dialogue without pre-planning. Just like in real life. The lack of structure forces students to develop their speaking beyond just repeating stock phrases. And apart from conversation practice, there are very few other ways to improve this skill. Reason 2, you can cover a variety of different topics. Putting students in lots of different scenarios means they get to practice a range of language. Sure, we often teach topics like transport, food and sports, but how often do students actually use that language in a real context? Lots of vocab they learn is unnatural and they never use it directly, but in a roleplay, we give it relevance. Reason 3, new language emerges. While you should definitely think of a few key words before each scenario, it's inevitable that a student will want to say something that they don't know how to say yet. Fantastic! That's a great learning opportunity, and it's a super powerful one because the language in question already has lots of value attached to it. The student desperately wants to know how to say it so they can communicate. Adding value to language is super important. It's a major part of my vocab teaching method. Words that students care about get more resources from the brain to form stronger memories. If you want to learn more about teaching vocab, I've got a whole series on it. The first video is up there and in the description. Reason number 4, roleplay is creative. During a roleplay scenario, students have to use their English creatively. They have to resolve conflicts or reach particular goals. And that's not always easy. But through dialogue and spontaneous enactment, they use their English to achieve those things. Reason number 5, anyone can do it. What I love about roleplay is how it's pretty much universally accessible. Anyone can do it without a lot of the barriers that most speaking activities have. Like giving presentations or acting out a play in front of the class is very stressful for some, and it kills motivation. But roleplay isn't a performance. It's just done with a partner or a small group, and that's it. Often students who are normally shy come into their own during a roleplay. Reason 6, everybody knows how to do it. Little kids roleplay all the time. Go to a playground and you'll see it everywhere. As we get older, we tend to lose that childish delight, but it's still a natural part of us. And many students appreciate the opportunity to roleplay because they don't get to do it in their normal life. Finding the video helpful? I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button. It helps support the channel and gets more people seeing this kind of video. Thanks. Reason number 7, roleplay is flexible and adaptable. You can use roleplay with pretty much any class. Like I said earlier, with absolute beginners it's not going to work, but with anyone that's upper beginner or higher, it's fantastic. Obviously it will be different with young learners and adults. but all you have to do is tweak the expectations and choose an appropriate scenario. And you can pick scenarios for any topic. Going to the dentist, appearing on a talk show, concluding a massive business deal, anything you can imagine really. Another thing, roleplay can be a short practice exercise or a foundational part of your lesson. It can last 2 minutes or half an hour. I've had some groups improvise dialogue in one roleplay scenario for over 20 minutes. Reason number 8, it's free and simple. To do a roleplay activity, you need absolutely nothing. Sure, you need to prepare the roles in advance, but apart from that, all you need is people to take part. No costumes, no props, although you can use them if you want, no notebooks or other stationery. You can do it in the classroom, in the corridor, in the park, wherever you want. If you're teaching online, you're a little limited about what students can do in their space and they can't physically interact, but they can certainly imagine doing so. Reason number 9, the last one, it's fun. Roleplay is active, it's dynamic and engaging. You can be silly or serious with it, but it always has a different energy to most classroom activities. Students are more motivated to take part. And done right, it's satisfying and enjoyable for everyone involved. And that's the key, doing it right. I think the reason why most teachers don't use roleplay is because they don't set the expectations, they've had bad experiences, and it just goes a bit off the rails. It can get too wild, or it's overly structured and it takes all of the joy out of it. You can make sure your roleplay activities are the best possible by watching this video about the do's and don'ts of the method. But for now, I've been Will from Enchanted ESL, wishing you all the joy and success in your teaching. See ya!